In 1978, Deng Xiaoping became leader of the People's Republic of China. Coming off Mao's reign, China had to remain a socialist bulwark in Asia. But by this point, it was clear that socialism had pretty much failed in China. The country was dirt poor with a GDP per capita of $229. In other words, the average Chinese person made less than $20 per month. This was far from ideal. So Deng said, screw it, and invented socialism with Chinese characteristics, which was, well, not really socialism. He privatized a bunch of stuff, allowed the market to take over a significant portion of the industry, and just basically made China a capitalist state. And since then, China's economy has been growing rapidly. In 2023, its GDP per capita reached $12,500, which is over a 50-fold increase from where it was in 1978. And this has led to a huge amount of change in the world. China became a rising power. The country helped lift 800 million people out of poverty. It became increasingly important in world affairs, with different people estimating that China would eventually surpass the United States and become the world's largest economy. In its early 2003, these forecasts give us a date of around 2040. People at different financial institutions, including Goldman Sachs, thought that that was the date when China would finally eclipse the United States. And as the 2000s continued, that number kept going down, with people in the early 2010s thinking that China would surpass the US as early as 2024. Well, guess what? It's 2024, and this has not happened. China's total economy stands at around $18.5 trillion in 2024, with the US at around $28.5 trillion. That's not really close. In fact, if China keeps growing at a high 5% per year and the US stutters at 2%, then China might not surpass the US until 2040, which is what those Goldman Sachs guys were estimating in 2003. Weird. So here's the thing. Something has gone incredibly wrong with China. Its growth has slowed and it's going through an economic crisis. If this does not change soon, then those numbers from above might all be wrong and China might never surpass the US. So let's explain what happened. The China of today faces a few key issues that have led to its economic slowdown. One is that your economy cannot grow quickly forever. This insight comes from the solo growth model. In essence, when a country is poor and does not have a lot of capital, even small investments yield great returns. If you give a farmer his first tractor, he's going to become all that more efficient. But as your economy keeps growing, small investments become less and less valuable. This is also why countries such as Japan, Singapore, and South Korea grew faster when they were poor than they do now. China faces the same problem. As it grows richer, giving tractors to farmers becomes a losing strategy. It has to keep inventing new TikToks in order to become the top dog. Number 2 is that China has a rapidly aging population. Because of the one-child policy, previous Chinese generations, didn't really have a lot of kids. This means that the number of people who are getting old and leaving the workforce exceeds the number of people who are coming of age and entering the workforce. To give some perspective, the UN estimates that China's working age population, i.e. ages 15 to 64, will decline by 100 million in the 2030s. In other words, there will be a lot less people working and a larger proportion of elderly that will need to be taken care of. So if China fails to turn things around by then and fails to surpass the United States in the 2030s, then its growth might slow even further and the US might stay ahead forever. Lastly, number 3 is both the easiest and hardest problem. It's the Chinese economic leadership. Despite the country's success, China is still not really a free market, and becoming too successful in China is still dangerous. Take Jack Ma as an example, the famous founder of Alibaba. Though extremely good at what he did, he eventually emigrated to Japan to avoid the government crackdown on tech. In other words, you can't really risk becoming truly successful in China because it makes you a government target. This is even more problematic when you realize that the current General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping, is just not that competent. His general strategy has been to appoint loyalists to top Chinese positions. This is a great plan for consolidating his power, but also means that he is missing out on smarter individuals who could do a better job, but aren't necessarily Xi fanboys. And this has consequences. For all its government control, China's economy has become extremely dependent on real estate, with it constituting 25% of their economy. But the real estate market seems to be a government-supported bubble, and as the bubble has been bursting, China's economic prospects have become more grim. So there you go. The Chinese dragon faces major hurdles in its quest to become the world's leading nation-state. The choices its government makes could determine the path all our lives take in the future. This video was made possible with help from the University of Georgia, bringing quality education to Georgia and beyond.